Hi, folks, and welcome to the last Windows in the Cloud Ask Me Anything event of this season. It's a very special one as we have all the engineering leaders of Windows 365 as guests today. So before I'll ask them to introduce themselves, please put all your questions and make them hard and make them like more into the future as well in the chat here below. So without further ado, let me introduce the first guest, which is Scott Manchester. So Scott, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Manchester. I'm the Director of Product Management for Windows 365. I'm a 21-year veteran at Microsoft, and I've been working in this virtualization space for the last 10 years.
Thanks, Scott. Phil, why do you not go next?
Sure. Phil Garrity. I'm a group product manager on the Windows 365 product team. And I look after our end user experiences, our business product, and some of the integrations that we're doing with Windows 365 and other products in them that are going to be coming to market soon.
Yeah, thanks. And as you hear, great and unique opportunities to ask questions. And we have as well Tristan that owns the enterprise product. So can you tell a little bit more about yourself, Tristan?
Yeah, thanks, Christian. So I'm Tristan Scott. I've been at Microsoft for about 17 years. I'm more focused on the enterprise segment, kind of Phil's other half on Scott's team of product managers.
Yeah, great. So a lot of brain power here. So as I said before, feel free to put your hard questions or just roadmap related questions in the chat. And to kick off with a nice question, I would like to ask you all, like, what was your most unique moment that stood out since the release of Windows 365 that happened in July last year? So we are almost ready to celebrate our first anniversary. So why did you go first, Scott? What was your moment over the last 11 months that you really thought hey, this was great for the product, or just something that happened in the market due to the pandemic and things like that?
Well, I'd say just the beginning of the whole development of the product was quite interesting. That we started forming this team in February of 2020, and then of course in March is when the pandemic really struck in the U.S. and many of us were sent home. That was right at the time we were forming the team. So we literally built the team, built the product, all while living this pandemic lifestyle that we were thrust into. So it was really interesting to literally be put in the ultimate situation where a product like this would really serve the need of our customers, and building it while we were living it. And I think that really helped us shape, core capabilities of the product, because, we were consuming it while we were building it and saying, what would we like to be able to do? What are the features and capabilities that we would think would be important, both from an admin side and an end user side? So when we were able to finally tell the world about the product, last year, we had 18 months of literally living the pandemic situation, that hybrid work life. And I felt like we came forward with a lot of really innovative product solutions that was driven by just, our own unique needs as well.
Yeah, I still remember that moment, of course. I've been connecting with one of the dev architects, the very, very early stage testing. Hey, how does AVD work in a concept when you have two subscriptions and the Azure AD subscription is somewhere else? And that really kicked off at that time. And that's I think 2.5 years ago. So it's really, really amazing that we preached a prayer here with our product, as well as the vision of remote working with our own product, and we made a product as well with that. So that's a great story. Tristan, what's your take on something that happened in the last 11 months for you?
Yeah, it's hard to beat that moment when Satya announced, because we were all as painful as an engineer to be in hiding for a year and a half, wanting to tell the world about your thing, and then finally getting it out there. But the thing that we got to do afterwards that sticks out for me is I do a fair amount of executive briefings. At Microsoft, we have a facility called the Executive Briefing Center, and I remember that the first time that I got to go back into the Executive Briefing Center, have a room full of one of our customers' executives, get to engage with them directly. That was just a perfect bringing together of hybrid world, being able to have people on the phone, people in the room, all collaborating effectively, and kind of a feeling that we're getting back to normal a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really like reconnecting with everybody, like on this virtual channel, but as well at EBCs or just like direct customer meetings or CDAC meetings and things like that. So it's just great that life goes back to normal, and we provide technology that can like provide remote working as well as working at the office and all things together in a simplified manner. So Phil, what's your moment to close off on this first question?
There's so many moments that I was thinking of. I think the recognition from our customers that we were doing something different with Windows 365, and just in particular, I'll talk about the end user experience. The fact that we have invested so much in making really kind of like a first class SaaS version of Windows in the cloud, I think it has struck people, and we've gotten so much feedback that they love that end user experience. It's really given us the confidence that we're heading in the right direction with a lot of those investments. And you can see that we're supercharging those and continuing to invest in things like integrating the end user experience with Windows 365 and Windows itself. So I think just hearing from customers once we did get into the market after such a long period of development that that we were in the right direction, that was like really energizing to our team.
Yeah, that segues a little bit into the next question that I think sits directly into the vision of Windows 365 as well. Like just as we've seen Office going to Office 365 over the last like 10, 15 years or so, do we expect the same will happen with Windows 365? And what are the like similarities between that journey? So maybe Scott wants to kick in, and maybe Phil and Tristan wants to add some color to that as well.
Yeah, I think it's think about the long careers that all the folks on this call have had. Got to work on a lot of different products throughout my career at Microsoft, and I know Phil and Tristan have as well. Very long backgrounds working in a variety of different product areas. To have an opportunity to put 365 behind Windows is definitely one of those once in a career kind of opportunities. And it's just been super rewarding to be able to finally bring Windows to the cloud and bring that concept of this, full SaaS offering of a Windows desktop hosted from the cloud. It's literally the crown jewel in my career, and I'm so excited by the opportunities we had to continue to refine and add capabilities of this product. And actually, this is a great example of how we've actually shaped the product, is engaging with our customers, engaging with partners, and getting their feedback. And hopefully during this call, some folks will ask about our previous roadmap and what we're looking forward to, because I tell you, the 7 or 8 real keystone features we've delivered in the last year have largely been driven by customers giving us feedback around it.
Anything else to add, Phil, Tristan?
We talk about Office 365 often, kind of in terms of just a benchmark or something to think about. Like, hey, remember that journey? What can we learn from that? As we were as a company going through, that we've talked about it often, and it comes up because there are a lot of parallels in terms of the way that you need to think about hosting a service on behalf of customers. Things like being able to react to a data center outage or something that could disrupt a customer's experience. You need to be able to sort of manage a service at a very, very large scale, and obviously over a long period of time, you're getting efficiencies out of that service that you can take advantage of. So that there are many parallels, I think, for Windows 365 in terms of how we've thought about the growth and development of the product with Office 365.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anything else to add, Tristan? Otherwise, we move to the next question.
No, let's keep rolling.
So one question that is close to your heart, I guess, is what are the differences between Windows 365 Enterprise and Business? Having you both on this call here, who wants to go first, explaining, for example, the business product against the enterprise product, just to set the scene for the audience here, because I don't think everybody knows about, hey, what are the main differences? And I'm not talking about like targeting small, medium businesses versus enterprise, but as well, a little bit more specifically on the feature side. So who wants to start first?
Tristan, would you like to take it?
Yeah, I'll just touch quickly on the high level and get into the specifics. So yeah, generally, the business product is targeting smaller businesses that don't want or need Microsoft Endpoint Manager. And then generally, the enterprise product is targeting those large organizations that want or need Endpoint Manager. But also, we're actually finding some smaller organizations that just want Endpoint Manager and some of the additional features that are in the enterprise product. So yeah, the gist of the business product was take out anything that feels advanced, make it so it's so easy for anyone to just get into the product and start using it right away. However, for people that need things like custom images, they want to be able to hybrid Azure AD join their Cloud PCs. They want to be able to have network connectivity back to their corporate network or around the globe potentially. For people that want built-in advanced analytics, you've probably seen we have integration with Endpoint Analytics. And you're going to just see us continue to invest in kind of single pane of glass experiences for the enterprise product right within Microsoft Endpoint Manager. So a lot more rich reporting, troubleshooting, analytics, more flexibility with how you can provision. People that have been watching us closely, the big thing that we released recently was kind of pure cloud Azure AD join option. So now we're kind of trying to make the full menu of options available to the enterprise product customers. You can just go pure cloud Azure AD join. You can connect to your corporate network. You can hybrid Azure AD join. You can bring your own custom image if you want. But of course, we advise that you do as much purely in the cloud if you need to. But if you're not ready for that, we have the options available. Anything you'd want to add, Phil?
No, I think you covered it beautifully.
So one question, I think this is a great one for Scott. Scott still has RDS for you in his Twitter handle. So a lot of people are sometimes questioning, hey, is Cloud PC Windows 365, is it the same as VDI, legacy VDI and things like that? Can you shed some light to that, Scott?
Yeah, VDI is a term that means different things to different people, but the term itself stands for Virtual Desktop Infrastructure. And that I part, that infrastructure part, is probably one of the things that people tend to correlate it with something that the infrastructure that they build, manage, and support on their own. And this technology has been around for decades, and people have found great uses for it. But the penetration of traditional VDI has still been relatively small in the enterprise market. It's a very small fraction of the overall enterprise users. And in the small business space, the technology has been really far away for them to reach, meaning the amount of work and effort that would take for a small business to build one usually doesn't make the economics work for a solution like that. So with Windows 365, we wanted to take a step back from what we've seen in terms of penetration with traditional virtualization and what we see in terms of opportunities. And then, as I mentioned before, we got hit with COVID right during the time we were really working through the product details. And frankly, it led to the split of the two products. The reason that Phil owns, a business offering and Tristan owns an enterprise offering, that really came from us living that hybrid lifestyle and saying, look, how would you shape a product very uniquely targeted at a small business where there's no in-house expertise to manage, set up, and deploy this? And then for enterprise customers, how do we bring the workflows and policies and procedures that our organizations are using today with physical devices and extend that out to the virtualization world, so that it's simple, just a new way of getting a PC experience without having to think about, all the infrastructure required for traditional virtualization. And so we had this great opportunity to conceive a product while we were literally living the experience and think about this unique solutions that we want to provide to small business and enterprises. And, we talk about what is different about Cloud PC. I mean, it's a pretty bold move for Microsoft to announce a new category of computing. Think about the last time that you've heard any, large player in this space announce a whole new category of computing. So we had to back that up. Like, what's so different between, Windows 365 and traditional VDI that people have seen for decades. And it's the little things in many cases, and obviously some significant changes in how you build, deploy, and manage it. The little things are really targeted at end user experiences, because traditional VDI is a powerful tool and many of our organizations are using it, and users are quite happy, sitting behind a virtualized environment. But it does take some amount of overhead in understanding the differences between a virtualization environment and a physical environment. And oftentimes things are taken away from an end user. Like in a multi-user environment, no one user can reset that machine without someone from IT getting involved, because there's perhaps 10 other people working on the box. With Windows 365, we wanted to bring those metaphors from traditional computing forward into the virtualization world. So by giving everybody their own personal desktop, not only does it mean that any user, if they get their machine into a bad state, can reset it. That user can be an admin or a standard user. It's up to the central IT to determine those requirements. That end user can back up that machine. They can restore that machine. They can resize that machine. And that machine will be exactly where they left it the last time they used it. And those things add up to be a pretty significant different experience for an end user. And that alone was enough for us to feel like, hey, this is something different. This is really a different experience that we can offer to end users that doesn't require specialized training, doesn't require significant IT overhead to help get them onboarded onto this. And hopefully everybody saw some of the upcoming integrations with Windows 11, where the Windows 365 app is just in the box. It's just part of the shell. No software install whatsoever, no training required for the end user. And that end user is empowered to diagnose, troubleshoot problems, and do the kind of things they do on a physical machine. So I think those are the things that really gave us that rationale to think of this as something different than traditional VDI. But we see a lot of our customers that have a need for both. And we're seeing a lot of hybrid deployments where they're using some traditional VDI. Maybe it's a remote app that they wanted to offer that doesn't run on any modern version of Windows. But now they want to provide this full desktop experience that's very modern, easy to use, cost-effective, and elastic as a new offering now for their organization.
Yeah, segueing into the Windows integration work and such, there's one question coming in regarding timelines and such. I'm not sure who, maybe Phil wants to talk a little bit to that, and I can chime in there, of course, too. When can people expect they will see some of those Windows integrations landing in Windows 11 and as part of Windows 365?
Well, we're just to remind everybody, the integrations you're talking about are the four things that we talked about that Satya and Panos announced in April. So those would be the Windows 365 app, the switching experience between Windows 11 and Windows 365, call that Windows 365 switch. Windows 365 boot, which allows you to directly get from like an end user directly into Windows 365 on a client device that's set up to allow that to happen. And then the last one being offline mode for Windows 365. So they all have different timelines. I can say that we're starting the work on Windows 365 app right now. And so that's we're actually starting app switch and boot kind of simultaneously. So that's all under development. In fact, we're making progress on offline as well. You're going to see app come to market first. And so that's something that we're not too far away from. I can't give specific timelines, but it's not, let's say it's not, years out for the first thing that you're going to see hit the market, which will be the app, and that's going to be fairly soon, and then we'll subsequently be able to deliver other chunks of that that are kind of like dependent on the app. So the switch and boot components will come after that.
Yeah, just to add some color to that, it's just amazing to see all the teams in Microsoft and especially Windows working together to bring Windows to the cloud. That over the last 20 years, 30 years, that never happened. And it's a unique moment. It's great to see that consolidation of different teams working towards the future. And yeah, seeing those features coming to life in Windows is just a great part of our vision moving forward. But it doesn't mean that we stop there. So more and more of those features that are in a similar kind of integration, but more seamless, more up to other kind of scenarios in Windows will come to life as well. So once we are ready, we will share that as well with the audience. So question for you, Tristan. GPU support as part of Windows 365. When can we expect that? And can you shed some light on, hey, what would be the specifics there as well?
Yeah, and maybe just some context a bit on how these things come to be in our product. So we do kind of 6-month planning, internally we call semester planning. So we get a pretty good idea of the big investments we're going to do every 6 months. We'll do kind of a step back check-in where we at. And then we do monthly planning. And this gives us an opportunity to kind of revisit what we thought we would work on, take in customer feedback in the meantime, and then adjust kind of what we're doing month to month as it goes. So in the case of GPU, this has definitely been growing. And, I mentioned those executive briefings I do. It does come up a fair amount. So if you're worried that we haven't heard it, we have heard it. And then there's a few things that we need to do next. We need to kind of do a little bit more market research to kind of quantify the urgency of it. We need to think about, how we would package and release such a thing. We need to, understand the availability of GPUs on Azure across the globe, because we are built on top of Azure with Windows 365. But our goal is to really deliver a consistent service where you never need to think about infrastructure or availability or capacity or things like this. So it is in our investigations list. And then as soon as we have a plan, we have, I can't remember the website, if you happen to remember it, Brinkoff, but we have kind of a roadmap that we've publicly posted as soon as something goes from investigation over to, oh, wow, that was great timing. Right there, that's where we'll post as soon as it's in our to-do list officially.
Yeah, thanks for those insights. And I think that really helps clarifying, hey, we are a SaaS product and not a platform as a service product, which gives different responsibilities as well as SLAs. And therefore, we are still working on getting the pieces together to do a good compelling offering in market. So that's great. One of the other things that just came in here too is what are we doing around nested virtualization? We, of course, support the 8-core license with nested virtualization, but what are we doing for the 4-core license? So is it something you can chime into as well, Tristan?
Honestly, you probably know the most on this one, Brink. I feel like you should answer your.
Oh, I'm as the audience know, I'm a PM as well, so I'm sitting a little bit in the driver's seat here, but I'm also a passenger. So it's good to
take your MC hat off and put your PM hat on for just a second, and now tell us about nested virtualization, since that's one of your babies.
Let's do that. So the 8-core license is already available today. The 4-core license isn't available today due to some capacity constraints because we leveraged on a unique new instance on Azure that supports nested virtualization. So we are waiting on an extra level of capacity to land. And once that happens, we will support the 4-core license as well. So that can happen in, let's say, a matter of weeks/month. So when we are ready for that, you will see it at that same link that you just saw on the screen below to point out when we are ready. So we are pretty close to make that switch as well. So one of the other things, and therefore I need you, Tristan, custom naming for Cloud PCs in Microsoft Endpoint Manager. When can we expect that?
Yeah, I'm always hesitant to commit to anything specific, but I will say that this one has been in our to-do list for a while. I didn't say this in my intro, but my previous team was the Microsoft Endpoint Manager team. So, and I worked on Autopilot at one point. And so I think anyone that's familiar with Autopilot knows that is an option there. As part of the Autopilot provisioning profile, you can kind of specify a machine naming format. And so we plan to do pretty much the same thing in the Windows 365 provisioning profiles. I think we will probably be able to get this in, before the end of the calendar year. Asterisk, no promises.
Here, that's a good answer. Stays good in the middle. I know how hard it is because people really take you for granted. You promise something here, but it's good to show some visibility and as well transparency in that we are working on it and really listen to customers and feedback that comes in here, as well as via EBCs and other channels. We collect those feedback items.
Just to add, I mentioned we have 6-month planning and 1-month planning. Some things are bigger and more complicated, and some things are kind of more likely to get in, in a given month. But this is one of those smaller things, which I can see us, knocking out in a month. So for that reason, I feel higher confidence that we can get things like this in.
Awesome. So one question, and I think this is for Scott, Phil, and perhaps Tristan too. Will Windows 365 go eventually consumer as well? So who wants to go first on that one?
Phil, your team has been working on some of the key technologies that lower the bar even further from the simplicity of our business SKU. Maybe it'd be good for you to share some of that.
Sure. We have several forums that where we get feedback on the top, kind of customer requests. And one of the things that we noticed very early on for Windows 365, very, very early on, was that one of the top requests coming through, I think at one point in time, the number one request was please support native ADJ. And then the number two request was, can we have Windows 365 for consumers? We knocked out the ADJ one. So, that basically puts consumer very, very high on our list of most requested feature asks. For a variety of reasons that has made a lot of sense to us to do as well. So we're making some investments right now that are kind of the critical sort of down payment, if you will, on consumer, which effectively means that we're starting the development on that. And so the first thing that you're going to see is that for the small business offering, we're looking at ways for very small businesses to be able to sign up and sign in more easily without having to go through the process of creating a tenant and using Azure Active Directory credentials. We're going to allow users and organizations, small organizations, to aggregate around the MSA. So you can use a Microsoft account to sign up and sign in for Windows 365. And that's primarily going to be focused on the business product at first. But what it does is it opens up the door then for us to effectively start talking about a consumer grade product. We feel really good about this, sort of scalability of our product. I think that there are some, the bar is just really high for consumer. It's gotta, be completely sort of bomb-proof, so to speak. And so there are a few other things that we're going to be looking at. And I think, lastly, we're going to take a good hard look at what we think the right business model and pricing is going to be in order to be really attractive in that segment. So there's a few pieces that will need to come together. We're really excited and bullish about this particular area. And so, stay tuned.
Yeah, it's great to hear that, we are really acknowledging that journey and first address the technical bits and pieces and then the business element of that as well, potentially. So thanks for providing that transparency and clarity to the audience here. So one of the other things that just came in, and that's probably a question for you as well, Phil, but I can chime in there as well, is what are we doing with support for Zoom, as well as Cisco WebEx, next to, of course, Teams that we support today as part of the Windows 365 app that just got announced during the Windows commercial event. That's the first one in line to support and build on top of that vision of bringing that Windows integration inside Windows 11. So if you don't want to or cannot do it, I can answer that question real quick. So just like the remote desktop client that you have today that supports Cisco WebEx as well as Zoom and as well Teams support, that will be exactly the same how it will work with the Windows 365 app inbox. So will just be the same kind of set of features that will be supported, redirected. Same with multimedia redirection, just works out of the box. So hope that that helps answering that question in the chat. So our vision is really to give you the best experience on Windows as well as other platforms. So just like Teams, we are on a journey on narrowing the gap of Teams on a physical PC as well as on a cloud PC. And we made big steps there. And maybe, Phil, you can chat a little bit to that as well. But customer Lego that we just announced as a customer story as part of the Windows in the Cloud video podcast show really choose Windows 365 for the simplicity of the service, the SaaS product, as well as the immersive experience with unified management with Microsoft Endpoint Manager, but as well the Teams experience is part of that we improved over the last, let's say 6 months. So do you want to add something to that, Phil? Like, what's our journey that we have on the Teams side and the experience there?
One of the apps that it became really clear early on was going to be very, very important for us to support was Teams. Historically, streaming video in all its forms has been a challenge in VDI. It's just such a high bandwidth thing, and yet, like with Windows 365 being kind of targeted at hybrid work, we knew it had to be better. It had to be an app that was functional. Same goes for WebEx and Zoom, as you just pointed out. And so we have a very strong relationship with the Teams team, the Windows 365 team does, and we're working very closely together with them and with AVD to bring enhancements to the Teams experience on Windows 365. The first sort of thing that we felt like we needed to do was just improve those optimizations, bring feature parity. But then we've also been in some talks with them to re-architect the way that Windows 365 and Teams actually work together. And so we have two parallel processes going. One is to improve the current Teams experience, and then we're also looking farther into the future at things we can do to really redesign and rethink the way that Teams and Windows 365 work together. And then we'll be looking for similar improvements in other application areas that are just in high demand. But it's a really exciting space. I think we've done some really innovative thinking already. And we're just getting started. We know though that, and we're committed to making sure that Teams just is a first-class experience on Windows 365.
Here, and that segues into another interesting topic, because Teams on a physical PC and a cloud PC, you have edge, you have cloud, you have more potentially lightweight devices or internet connected devices and such. So Scott, more looking into the future, where do you see endpoints like devices shift from like how they have been working for the last 2-3 decades, being a physical PC, just a personal computer, just like Bill said, a PC on every desk in every home? Like, how do you paint that picture in the next, like, let's say 10, 15 years from now? Do you expect the devices become more like cloud orientated and perhaps more lightweight and focused on like pieces that we do in a cloud PC as well as on a local PC with rendering technology?
Yeah, and we've already kind of announced a few of those forward-looking scenarios where the capabilities of the physical endpoint device and what's delivered in the cloud tends to blend more together, right? The Windows 365 offline is probably the most canonical example here, where I can now take my cloud PC and be able to run it even in a disconnected state on my local device. So where the workload is running starts to blur a little bit. and doing it in a way that the user doesn't really care and it's seamless to them is really the long-term vision. I'd invite everybody on the call to think for a moment about what's happened with their phone, right? Consider your cell phone and what your use case was with that phone 15 years ago, right? It was likely a flip phone or a brick phone and had a little teeny screen on it and a lot of big numbers, right? Didn't even have a keypad. And all you did with it was, maybe T9 texting and making phone calls. And really, it wasn't connected to the internet, didn't really provide any additional services. Now consider the amount of minutes you have behind your phone. What percentage of those minutes are, actually making a phone call versus consuming services, right? That phone is interesting and compelling for you to do all these different activities now because of the services they subscribe to, not because of the physical capabilities of the phone. Those are interesting, screen size, battery life, all those things we care about. But really, that phone is a brick when there's no connectivity, right? What happens when you're on a plane? Your phone sits in your laptop bag and probably has the most time between use of any other time during the day for you. Because for the most part, when you're on a phone, on the airline or when you don't have internet connectivity, that phone becomes a brick. Well, think about your PC over time. You want it to still have capability even in a disconnected state, but it's so much more interesting and can do so much more when it is connected. So Windows 365 is the beginning of this journey where we really start to blend the capabilities delivered by the cloud and cloud services and the capabilities of a physical device. So I think your point is right that you'll likely subscribe to services. You'll have hardware that's really designed for great battery life, great screen, great local capabilities, but really the power comes through all the services that it connects to in the cloud.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for providing that like vision and really inspire people that listening in here. And it's great to see that journey coming to life internally as well. We can of course not talk explicitly about that, but the energy is really high in terms of devices, Windows, and all those components coming together as part of that daily workspace that you use to be productive in the hybrid remote work life that we all live today. So switching gears a little bit back to like the product and some migration questions we just received. Question from Todd is, what are we doing to make migration from existing Active Directory Kerberos domain environments like Gpos to CSPs? How do we make that easier based on the existing capabilities we have in Microsoft Endpoint Manager? Is it something you can chime into, Tristan?
Yeah, you're spot on. I think that the GPOs are the number one reason people aren't going to pure cloud Azure join still. There's just so much investment that's been made over the years, and there's so much fear, that you're going to miss a setting when you're trying to switch over to an MDM based management solution. So I see the question. It looks like you're familiar with some of the work that we've been doing in MEM around analytics. That is one of the key things, is to at least illuminate for you, where do you have dependencies on GPOs and how do they translate over to MDM? But I also see you mentioned OMA URIs. Whenever you have to use OMA URIs, for those that aren't familiar, that's like, punching in a custom URL to configure something. That's a fail from our perspective. We don't want any of our customers to ever need to use OMA URIs. So there's a kind of track around getting better and better at the analytics of your existing environment, but there's still more work to do to provide you with the ADMX templates and the MDM CSPs you need to be able to translate things effectively. So that's kind of, I mentioned I was on the MEM team. This was almost 2.5 years ago now. And so we work really closely with the MEM team. But there's other people. There's a whole kind of team of people that are specifically focused on this problem in one of our sister teams. And so there might be more to the equation on this one than what I'm sharing. But if nothing else, I want to acknowledge that this is a known transition challenge. And then maybe the Windows 365 specific part of the solution to consider is, we're finding that a lot of people are looking at it from an IT pro perspective, just a really easy evaluation environment. So whether you're evaluating going to Azure join, you might be evaluating hybrid Azure join as well. You might be evaluating Windows 11. It's so easy just to spin up a few Cloud PCs and kind of a risks-free option where you can supplement whatever you're doing in your physical world and go, kind of quickly spin up this Cloud PC to see what works and what doesn't. So that might be worth a try as you're looking at your evaluation.
Thanks, Tristan. So one other question from Garrett here is, I'm trying to upgrade my Windows 365 Cloud PC to the insider's preview of Windows to the latest build, and I seem to get some errors and things are not working as expected. So I can answer that question. So the best thing is to create a ticket for that, so we can investigate what's going on there. It should just work. However, with the new build having shipped faster than the production ring, we might need to do some customization or check what's going on there. So please feel free to just create a ticket at support, and reach out to me on social media with the ticket number if you want to get some more pace happening there as well. If you are looking for something to test like today or in the next couple of days as well. So one of the other questions here is, I'm currently using Windows 365 Cloud PC as a standard user, not a local administrator, and I don't see the restart button in the start menu anymore, only when I'm a local administrator. I remember we have looked into this, but I'm not sure what the latest on that is. Phil, can you chime in there? And we can follow up offline on that as well.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up offline. I'm not sure I'm actually completely tracking the question. If it's about the, is this the one from John?
Yeah, correct. So
okay.
We have, I can provide some color there. We have been looking into that, so we are actively working on the solution. I'm not sure if we implemented that already, so we can follow up offline on that. So we are aware of the issue, and we are actively working on getting that back into the start menu for a normal user.
Okay, yeah, I thought they were talking about the remote desktop app itself. So if that's the case, we will be, as we bring the Windows 365 app to market, all of the functionality that a user will have with their, including restart or reset, that they would find in the Windows 365.microsoft.com portal, that will actually also be brought into the Windows 365 app. So that might resolve some of the issue that John was facing, but perhaps there's more to that question too.
Phil,
yeah,
it might be worth mentioning some of the actions in the web app today.
Yeah, you can restart, reset, rename, troubleshoot. You can do a restore also. That's a newer feature that we've just brought in. So you can restore a Cloud PC to a previous state if for some reason something's gone wrong, accidentally deleted an app or something like that. You need to go back in time. We've got restore points on the Cloud PCs. So all those actions are available in the web portal, and will be brought into the new Windows 365 app when we get it into the market later this year.
So regarding those features, those unique user actions we provide in the web portal as well as in the app in the near-term future, what are we doing? And it's a question from Sean here in terms of resizing the Cloud PC. Are we going to do that as well inside those user actions in the future?
I mean, I can kind of start on the enterprise side. We've got pretty clear feedback from IT pros to give me controls about what I expose to my end users. And so right now there's not as many options as we aim to have in the future. In the future, we expect to have basically choices in them for the admin to say all these things that are off by default, turn them on for my users if I want them. So if I want to enable restore, resize, these things, we basically just found that there's a mix of preferences company to company. We'll kind of do the same thing we do with all MEM policies. We'll allow you to customize by Azure AD group. I want this group of users to have this set of actions, this group of users to have different set of actions. So that's in our roadmap as well. So
another question from Sean in a follow-up. What are we doing with group-based licensing improvements as part of the resize feature and bulk-based resizings as well for multiple Cloud PC users at the same time.
Yeah, I think I literally saw a spec to be reviewed sent over yesterday from someone on my team on the group-based license one. So yeah, this is another one that's been kind of growing in demand. I think generally, if you look at the pattern for group, for bulk actions in them, it's not super scalable. There's a way that you can, select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and do all the actions at the same time. But we want to take a fresh look at that and see if there's a better way to be able to do hundreds and thousands of actions, in an admin-friendly kind of way. The related thing, though, is for the resize action specifically, for people that have really kind of double-clicked on it, what you see is that under the covers, we're kind of modifying the license assignments for the users. And so this makes it tricky. It doesn't work today for people that have done group-based license assignments. And so this is the spec that's been getting reviewed right now, where we have a proposal around how can we facilitate resizing for those that do group-based licensing. So we have a proposal on the table. I can tell you it's a high priority item for us. We're going to be working on it, but don't have a specific timeline for when we'll be rolling that out yet.
Great, thanks. So regarding another question here from Andre, he has been using Windows 365 Business, and he had a problem with his license. It got expired because his credit card or auto renewal wasn't working fine. He's asking, hey, what's the standard procedure for when your license is not active? Like, do we have grace period, and what is the time that a user has to recover the data and such? Phil, can you chime in here, or Scott?
You know what? I can't remember off the top of my head what that period of time that we keep the data is.
I think it's 3 days for business as a default, and 7 days on enterprise.
Yeah, so they would have to go call support and try to recover that data. So call Microsoft support, and they can get the right credit card, and then rehydrate that data from what we have before that.
Yeah, I think the process is there are cases where they would need to call support, but there's some cases where they'll be able to identify and self address these issues as well.
Okay.
As that license becomes expired, there'll be a notification in the user portal, so the end user will see that their license is now expired. So if they're a license admin, if they're a small business, they have access to the Windows 365 portal. They can go re-enable that license, fix that commerce issue, and address it. Anytime that there is a deprovisioning of a cloud PC because of some commerce backend, we also retain the data longer. So those are the cases where Phil's pointing out, where if you get in a situation where there was a commerce error and you went past the 3 days, do call support, because there are opportunities for us to recover that VM even after that time as well in those conditions. If you explicitly click the box and unlicense, 3 days, the data's gone, right? So, but if it was some back end action that happened, we hold on to that image for longer to allow you to call support and be able to recover back to your known good state.
So what if, and segueing into the restore capabilities, and not specifically related to license expiration, but what are the specifics there? So we offer the resize or the restore feature. What is the timeline, or let's say the retention time we do those snapshots in terms of, hey, you are active, but you want to go back? Maybe that's a follow-up question maybe people have as well.
I believe we take 7 snapshots, and so we will take them, up to 7 times. And so, if you've had your Cloud PC running for 7 or more days, then you'll just be able to go back in time. I believe it's 7 last time I looked. So there's a lot of different of these kind of incremental snapshots being taken, which gives you, over the course of time, the ability to be very specific about how far back you want to go, and this duration between the snapshots. I believe that's a configurable setting, isn't it, Tristan? You can determine.
Yeah, I was just pulling up. I couldn't remember the exact number of snapshots and timelines either, but yeah, in MEM, you have the choice to say, do I want to expose restore to the user? And then you can choose for the near term restore points if you do it every 4 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours. So there's customizability for each Cloud PC, how frequently you want to back it up.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, and Scott's saying it's the remaining ones can be configured from 4 to 24 hours. So you have control over kind of like the increments that you want to take those snapshots in.
Yeah, we hard coded to do rolling weekly backups. So 4 of the backups are weekly. So you're always going to be able to roll back weekly, and then the remaining snapshots you can configure from 4 to 24 hours.
And it's one of, just to add, like, this wasn't there when we launched the thing, and we just added it, and we're not charging anything more for it. And it's pretty powerful when you think about it. Like, just, you don't want to troubleshoot something, you just roll it back to 4 hours previously. It's like a couple clicks and a few minutes waiting, and then you're back in action. It's a really powerful feature.
Yeah, we provide a lot of guardrails around Windows 365. The last few questions have been really interesting because they're all kind of revolve around this. How do we get back to a known good state? Whether it was a licensing issue on the back end, or hey, I gave the user admin access and they installed something bad and the machine's in a bad state, right? Or the machine just locked up, some bad application that crashed and my machine's in a bad state. All of these are things that we thought of when we sat back and said, if we wanted to build a solution that allowed as much self-service, and to Tristan's point, admin configuration of how much self-service you want to expose. That's really one of the real values of this, is you give that power back to the user like they have on a physical machine. Like one of the things I often, when I talk publicly about Windows 365, I do a show of hands. Who's used virtualization in the past? And most people show up, have used virtualization, and their hands go up. I said, how many of you can reset your virtual machine? No hands, right? How many can reset your physical machine? How many non-technical family member can reset their physical machine when it gets in a bad state? Everybody knows you can hold your finger on the power button. Bringing that capability to virtualization seems so obvious now, but here we are, 3 decades of virtualization, and finally now we have the ability to empower users to reset, restart, resize, and take those actions on a virtual machine in the same way they can on a physical machine. It's really empowering. So there's a ton we could get into details around all of the security and resilience that we've built into the solution. Right out of the gate, it's got high availability at the core of the product. And then we build services that manage the user's environment and ensure that there's no configuration changes that would create a bad experience. And then we put these further guardrails around doing point-in-time restores and backups and the ability to reset the machine back to a known good state. All of these are designed to continue to have great end user experiences, and for you as administrators to have business continuity as a core component of your Windows 365 experience.
Yeah, we remember booting Windows into a Pixie boot and then back up your hard drive and then put it on a use. We make that easier, that's for sure. So one other question, and we only have like 6 more minutes. So if you have like last burning questions, make sure you really start typing right now. One question that comes in here: when do we allow users or IT admins to provision multiple Cloud PCs with either the same license or different licenses in the Windows 365 product? We know we can do it today, but it's very hard. So Tristan, what are we doing there to improve that experience?
Yeah, so I would say that that one is a little bit further along than the last one we're talking about group-based licensing. It is in our list of things to figure out over the next 6 months. And I've even seen mock-ups, like UI designs of how this could work. And I think we all like what we're seeing. So we have the concept. We need to do a little bit more evaluation of where to prioritize this one among other urgent features customers are asking for, but it's totally in our list of, we know we need to make this more flexible here, and then just need to get it done.
Great. So I think one maybe last question that just comes in, which is a very interesting one, and I want to start with you, Scott. A question comes in here. Why should you choose Windows 365 over Azure Virtual Desktop? You have been leading the Azure Virtual Desktop team as well, so you know exactly what the two products do and what they are in terms of differences, in terms of offerings and responsibilities. And can you help answering that question? And it should not be cost driven, but maybe touch base a little bit on that as well, because that's inside the question as well.
Yeah, and there are use cases, right? As Krishan pointed out, my Twitter handle kind of gives away my history here in the virtualization space. It's at RDS for you. I started my journey working on virtualization with remote desktop services. I was, the product leader from the inception through GA of Azure Virtual Desktop, and had the same honor with Windows 365. So we built these products with very distinct purposes and use case scenarios that we were addressing. With Azure Virtual Desktop, we wanted to build a PaaS-based solution that took advantage of the power of the cloud and offered all the virtualization roles as finished services. People, installing server and then setting up all the server roles. That's a very on-prem kind of concept. And with the premise of the cloud, the public cloud offerings, building something where it's natively built on top of our public cloud offering and allows users to easily provision and configure very complex environments that meet their business needs. Like to pull someone out of an on-prem environment that they've tweaked and fine-tuned for years and allow them to have that same sort of flexibility and bring it to the cloud is what we wanted to accomplish with Azure Virtual Desktop. And we've been wildly successful. And that product was available when COVID hit and was a great solution for organizations to get themselves productive and instantly be able to provision workloads to meet the demands that their users now had as they moved from the office and moving into the homes. So if you've got that in-house expertise and you've got maybe a large set of applications that don't run on modern version of Windows, or you have very specific needs for remote apps versus full desktops, AVD is a great solution. If you're looking to transform your experience and maybe even organizationally, you want to open the opportunity for certain departments now to provide a cloud PC versus a physical PC. Perhaps it's a supply chain issue or just simply a different opportunity you want to create within your organization where people can pick whatever device they want, Mac, Android, iOS, older PCs, modern PCs, and then allow that device to give them access to their corporate environment in a secure way and be able to take that device anywhere they want, at home, to a coffee shop, and get access to in a secure way to their corporate environment. And you want to create an experience that feels modern, something, in this today's world where, it's much harder to attract and retain good talent. Giving someone a great experience with all this flexibility is a great reason for people to look to Windows 365, even if they've been using traditional virtualization and perhaps it's working great for them. But this opens new opportunities. We talked about a few of them, right? This idea of this fast switching between your personal desktop and your work desktop to boot directly into the Windows 365 and experience, and to create those things that restart, resize, restore, all those capabilities, and to reduce the IT overhead that traditional virtualization offers. So we're seeing some customers looking at Cloud PC for the first time now, looking at a virtualization solution where they might have passed on it because of the complexities and user experience things that turn them off to it. And then we're seeing organizations that are using a bit of both. They're using Azure Virtual Desktop for their remote app scenarios and certain things within certain departments. And then they're using Windows 365 now to provide that full personal desktop experience to their customers. So we think there's great opportunity for both. And it really depends on your in-house expertise, the specific user experiences you're trying to support. And do you have a legacy of applications that you need to support in-house that don't run on modern Windows?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So one more question. No, we are at time. Just waking up the folks in the back that point me out that we are at time. So I really would like to say thank you to everybody to join this last Ask Me Anything session at the end of this Microsoft fiscal year, which is the end of the season. So we hope to see you back in August when we have a new Ask Me Anything event. And in the meantime, feel free to go to aka.ms/Windows in the Cloud to watch some of the Windows in the Cloud episodes back on demand. And as well, the next one coming up with Windows Auto Patch and Windows 365, which will be very awesome to see, which sits in that simplicity bucket as well to make Windows updates as easy as just a SaaS service as well. So thanks again to all the guests for being here. It was great, and I hope to see you somewhere back in the next season as well. So thanks for joining, and enjoy your day as well.